Let's jump in and talk a little bit about these vendors. And I think Simon's going to post a poll here real quick, just so we can get a little bit of your feedback on the providers that you're working with. But one of the things that I really love about our offering with MVE and the providers that we are working with is we're working with the best in the business. So we started with Cisco, we added Fortinet, we added Versa recently. We've got VMware, Aruba, the former Silver Peak model coming on board. So we've got 5 of the top vendors, the most recent WAN edge infrastructure vendors that Gartner published in their SD-WAN Magic Quadrant here about a month ago. So we're working with the best of the best, and it does cover 72% of the worldwide SD-WAN infrastructure. And just to further accentuate that, if you look at the market spend here via this IDC chart here on the left-hand side, it's also covering the majority of the spend. So Cisco takes a big chunk of that pie, but we've also got right behind VMware, Versa, Silver Peak, and Fortinet. We're going to continue to add add platforms as we go along. So it looks like we've got pretty good coverage with our audience here today, and we'll talk a little bit more about these vendors and how they're integrated into the platform. But a lot of Viptela users, a lot of Fortinet users. That's awesome. And VMware as well. So let's jump in here real quick and talk about a little bit more about some of the vendors and their integration with Megaport. So we've got a great unique relationship here with Cisco. We were first to launch with Cisco and their software-defined cloud interconnect, or SDCI service offering. So it's quite the honor to be first to support that service. The other great thing, and when we talk about simplicity and being able to deploy faster, as some of the keys to modernizing SD-WAN infrastructure, you are able to deploy Megaport services through your vManage management console, through a single pane of glass. And with that, you can deploy the MVEs. You can connect MVEs together. You can also then build out in automated fashion right directly there within vManage private connections. So partner interconnects with Google, direct connects with AWS, and express routes with Azure. So all of that can be managed directly through a single pane of glass through vManage. The other thing that's great for those Cisco partners is they can get billed directly from Cisco. So we are on the Cisco price list to where you can deploy and get billed from Cisco directly. Now, for you Megaport customers that have your own accounts, you can also integrate those into vManage as well and deploy and manage these services directly from vManage. So kind of a lot that I went through there. Certainly, we'd love for you to reach out. We can go through a demo and show how you can utilize the 2 pane of glass approach with Megaport and Cisco and that single pane of glass approach. But the integration with vManage is outstanding and a great way for you to manage that infrastructure. So just real quick, where does Megaport's service sit within vManage? So if you go into configurations, we're going to sit in cloud on-ramp for multi-cloud, which is in the middle of on-ramp for IaaS and on-ramp for colocation. It's really the perfect spot for it. If you think about on-ramp for IaaS, that's where I'm using internet from my branch all the way into appliances that I've deployed within my VPCs or VNets in my private cloud environment. If you look at on-ramp for colocation, this is actually where I'm going to manage a physical presence in a data center, and Cisco is going to send me a kit that I'm going to manage that infrastructure. And where the SDCI platform sits is you kind of get the best of both worlds. You're able to use short hop on the internet. You connect to Megaport's private infrastructure that you manage within vManage, and then you're able to build that private connectivity into the cloud. And we'll review that in greater detail as we get into the presentation. Just a quick view of the management console within vManage. So you do have the ability to create MVEs, which are going to be interconnect gateways within vManage. And you can also create the connections to the cloud, which is going to be the interconnect connectivity, and all of that managed through a single pane of glass. So Fortinet was the second vendor that we brought onto the platform. Fortinet's widely known for their firewall solutions and a trusted security vendor. Since the version 6.2.3 with FortiGate, customers can now deploy SD-WAN and SASE out of the box, which is great. I think we saw a lot of Fortinet users there in that survey. And that can be supported on top of the Megaport virtual edge. So both the SD-WAN and SASE platforms can be hosted on top of Megaport virtual edge. One of the things that's unique to Fortinet is you can stand up these FortiGates in a standalone deployment. So customers who have worked with Megaport in the past, if they wanted to access our network and connect in a data center, if they weren't in that data center, they could build out private connectivity through a carrier to meet us. Now a customer, and we have some customers that are doing this, they can go in, they can deploy this FortiGate device or this virtual instance on top of MVE. And now they can utilize the internet, build VPN tunnels. So if you're remote users or your branch offices, you can build those VPN tunnels through the internet. Once you connect to that Megaport fabric, then you can build that private connectivity and access those resources across the Megaport network. Versa, we launched, Versa was the third to launch on the platform. Versa is widely known for building their SD-WAN platform from the ground up. Very easy to use, focused on SD-WAN and building those SASE applications and a very disruptive pricing model. So another great option within the Megaport platform. Looking at VMware, they're going to be coming soon to the platform. One of the things that's kind of unique about VMware is they do have virtual POPs that customers can deploy globally, where customers can actually deploy a cloud gateway hosted with VMware. And this allows customers to aggregate their branch sites over the internet to a cloud gateway. And then these cloud gateways are going to sit on peering points where you can access the public endpoints for the cloud providers or service providers that are connected to that IX location. So where MVE fits in and meshes well with VMware is customers can now deploy a virtual edge device with VMware. They can aggregate over the internet. Now they can also utilize the Megaport private backbone to reach additional endpoints. And we'll talk specifically about those use cases as we go along further. Aruba, keep your ears open for this one. This one's going to be on the horizon here shortly. But those of you who are familiar with Silver Peak, so a lot of the customers that I've worked with or have worked with Silver Peak, they integrated with Aruba in September of 2020. So now they sit under the Hewlett-Packard umbrella. Some of the highlights in Gartner's most recent review was, really large enterprise type of focus, strong SD-WAN, path selection, application recognition type of capabilities, and really strong customer satisfaction scores. So, we've worked with and talked with a lot of customers that want to deploy the Silver Peak Aruba solution and look forward to them coming on here shortly. As we talk a little bit more around the terminology, so we refer to our service as the Megaport Virtual Edge or MVE. When you're deploying the resources with the different vendors we've integrated, that's going to be an interconnect gateway. So with Cisco, this is a Catalyst 8KV or CAKV. It's the latest virtual router that Cisco offers. That's going to be deployed on top of MVE. With Fortinet, it'll be a FortiGate Edge or virtual edge. If we look at VMware, it's going to be the virtual edge. It's going to be deployed with Versa, formerly the Flex VNF. Now it's the Versa operating system. And then with Aruba, you're going to be deploying their Edge Connect virtual ECV. So again, we term it as MVE. That's going to translate to one of the different edge devices with our supported vendors. So real quick, we just want to kind of familiarize you with some of the licensing options with each one of the vendors. So you are going to bring a license supplied by the vendor to deploy on top of MVE. As we look at how we want to build those licenses, typically it's going to be around bandwidth. So looking at Cisco to start with, there's a tier 2 and a tier 3. You're going to line it with the bandwidth. So the tier 2 is going to fall in a small and medium MVE category. That tier 3 is going to be the large. You can deploy those licenses in the tiers of Cisco DNA Advantage and Cisco DNA Premier. And then also you can utilize those existing licenses to deploy on the Megaport platform. If we look at Fortinet, they're a little bit more of an outlier on the licensing, and it's more focused on building your license around the virtual CPUs of the size of the MVE. Versus the bandwidth. It's also advised that you're going to use their SD-WAN orchestrator. However, you don't need to use FortiManager. You can manage this service independently. And there are various licenses options available. So as you add on services, you may need additional license functionality. Looking at a VMware, we're going to go back to matching up the MVE based on bandwidth. The license tier is going to be the enterprise tier. And when you're deploying this license, you're going to select the region, and you're also going to select the term. So that's going to be really specific to the customer and the application. And then again, with Versa, aligning with bandwidth, it's going to fall under that prime SD-WAN tier. Those solution tiers and license tiers are going to be specific to the customer and design and the use case of your requirements. And then finally, with Aruba, again, you're going to be matching the MVE and the license based on the bandwidth. And then you also are going to have those additional options with that license, such as their Boost add-on service. So again, you're going to bring that license, you're going to deploy that on top of MVE, and you'll work with those vendors to make sure that those vendors and Megaport to make sure that you're getting the proper license to deploy.